Greetings, geeks, nerds, and people that are bored alike. It is I, Danica Skyfalker, the Jedi Dropout, and with me, as always,
Axon Cleaver, the Urban Viking.
So, we had kind of an off week. Still sort of new at this, but we're trying to get a little bit more of a routine down. That being said, libation of the day.
Tequila sunrises, because it's the only sunrise we're going to see for the next couple of days.
Yeah, pretty much. We've got some cloudy, rainy weather where we are, so brighten up a little bit. Tequila sunrises. Tobacco of the day.
I'm currently smoking Captain Black out of my Dragon Claw Meerschaum pipe.
Good
Very
stuff.
good, very good. It's a classic blend, really classic blend.
Captain Black, that blend, in one variation or another, has been around for a long time because my dad smoked it in his pipes, and my mom's dad, my granddad, he smoked it out of his pipe. So it's good. Smells amazing. So jumping right in, first topic for the day: favorite heroes, film, comics, anime, fiction, whatever. Say pick 2, maybe 3 favorite heroes. Discuss why we like about that heroes, why they're our favorite heroes, that type of thing. So, Axe, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Obviously, my main guy is Guts from Berserk.
Yeah.
Probably the angriest man in fiction. I like him because he's mortal in the world of immortals. He's a mortal man in a world of demons, and impossible odds every single day. Everything is awful, terrible, horrible, and he still keeps putting one foot in front of the other, keeps fighting, and still comes out on top against all odds. And that's just something that a lot of us, we really like. I mean, it's a winning the impossible scenario. The Kobayashi Maru, pretty much.
Yeah, the Kobayashi Maru. Very good reference. Okay, well, we'll go back and forth.
Works for me.
Since you went anime, I'll do the same. Favorite anime character? It's a cliche answer. Goku. The thing I like about Goku is he's a man that does not accept any type of limitations that anybody tries to put on him. He's constantly pushing himself. He's constantly breaking his own limits to get to where he wants to be, get to where he needs to be. And he doesn't have an end game. He wants to always be stronger. He wants to always push himself, which to me that's really appealing, that he doesn't set any limits on himself. He knows what he wants and he goes for it constantly. He doesn't give up on it. For me, things that I've done and I've experienced in my life, that's something that I've kept in mind. I've tried to keep that mindset. When I really want something, that's what I do. I go for it. I don't have a limit. I might have one today, but I'm not going to have that same limit a week from now. So there you go. Any others?
Well, Green Arrow's an obvious one, but we've covered him in every single podcast we've done so far, so I think we'll give it a rest.
Well, just give a brief rundown of what drew you to that character, and then you can just give a real blip about, a little quick blip.
Well, first off, he was an archer. I've been shooting bows since I was 6 or 7, so that was a real good thing. But another thing is that he was just a person. He was not a superhero. He's a flawed person.
Yeah.
He's not a Martian, not an alien. He wasn't blasted by radiation, wasn't gifted with extra technology. He's a person. He's very rich, so he funds his habits that way, but he's just a very flawed person. And I like that. I like the flawed characteristic.
Yeah, he's a flawed person, an imperfect person, doing what he can to make the world a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. So that's what you like about that character.
Mm-hmm.
You said the archery thing's what drew you in. My favorite comic book character, Batman, obviously.
I would have guessed Aquaman.
Yeah, I'm sure he would have. No, as you said, we've covered this a few times in different episodes, but just wanted to touch on it. Why Batman is my favorite hero. The thing that drew me into that character initially was I don't know, about 5, 6, when the 1989 Batman movie came out. So I don't think I saw it in theaters. If I did, if my parents took me, I don't remember. But my sister, she worked at a video store back when they still had mom and pop video stores, and she would bring that home when I would stay with her for her to babysit me and stuff, and I would watch it. And I think just the design and the aesthetic of Batman, his costume was really cool. And he was this one guy with his bare hands taking on all these thugs with guns. I thought that was cool, but as I got older and I continued to read a little bit more about him, he's first and foremost, he's a martial artist. He's a ninja. I dig that. I have been studying martial arts in one aspect or another since I was about 7, 8 years old. And I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I'm old. So I've been studying for a long time. And the thing that I like about Batman, reason why he's one of my favorite heroes, my favorite hero probably ever, is he's a self-made man. Yes, he is super rich. He has a lot of funds and a lot of resources at his disposal, but he's an inventor. He created a lot of his own stuff by himself with very little help. He's mastered every martial arts known to man, on top of some that people don't know. And he has pushed himself to the absolute physical and mental peak of what a human is capable of, so that he can fight the battles that he needs to fight to protect his city and protect what he holds dear. And I really like that. He, in a similar way, like Goku, he's broken a lot of the limits that a normal person's going to have on him. He's pushed himself to that absolute breaking point. I would say if he has a superpower, it's his willpower, and that's really appealing to me.
Outstanding.
So, yeah. Any others?
Haven't really been a big hero guy for most of it. I mean, I've liked characters here and there. Actually, I take that back. In the Sword of Truth series, have you read that?
I have not read that.
Very good series. Very, very long, very in depth, very philosophical, very violent, and very visceral. But the main character is Richard. Richard is the seeker of truth. Nothing gets in his way from finding the facts, finding the truth behind, whatever's happening in that particular book, whatever the problem is. And it's a very powerful thing that is truth. It's a concept more than a power. And it's slowly becoming less and less commonplace. And I think someone like Richard, just a seeker of raw truth. It doesn't unbiased. The only thing he wants is what the truth is, like what actually happened in this scenario, or what does this person actually want.
That's cool. I can get behind that. Going to books, I wouldn't say that he's one of my favorite characters, but a character that I've always liked is Conan the Barbarian. Oh, Robert E. Howard.
Crazy some bitch.
Oh yeah. If you're pen pals with
H.P. Lovecraft.
H.P. Lovecraft, you might want to question your life choices a little. But I've always liked that character because he's a man that he takes what he wants. He has a very profound moral code or personal code. It's his code, but he follows it. That's a little bit off topic.
Yeah, you're fine. I like Conan too. I really do. The original Conan with Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think, still really, as far as cinematics, has captured the essence of the character. The newer one, it wasn't bad.
It actually wasn't. My only issue was Conan talked too much.
Yeah, it was very loyal to the comics more so than loyal to the original stories, and that's kind of how I differ the two. One's an adaptation of the comic books, whereas the Schwarzenegger version, the first one, Conan the Destroyer, doesn't exist. You don't make a PG-13 sequel to a rated R movie. You don't.
Yeah.
But in the original Conan the Barbarian, that was loyal to the stories of Conan, whereas the newer one was loyal to the comic books of it. So they're both very good movies, but I do like the original one a little more.
Right. I'm with you there. I couldn't have said it better myself, actually. Another favorite hero of mine, I'll just state the obvious. We've talked a bunch about how I'm a big Star Wars fan. I mean, Jedi Dropout. If you didn't get that,
That's what we in investigations call a clue.
Yeah. So I kind of go back and forth. There's a lot of great characters in Star Wars. Qui-Gon Jinn, if you read some of the Star Wars comics or read some of the novels, and even Liam Neeson's portrayal of that character in Episode 1, is a great character. Obi-Wan Kenobi is a fantastic character, but I gotta go with my guy, Luke Skywalker. I just really like the concept of very Arthurian. Here's this boy, farm boy. He didn't know anything past what he was right in front of him growing up, and this whole world is exposed to him, and he embraces it and accepts it and becomes a formidable force, pun intended, within that world. I just think that's awesome. That's a great story. It's an old story. It's a story that's been told 100,000 times, but it's a great story. Those are the kind of stories that I like. If you've ever read the Inheritance series by Christopher Paolini, that's a great series. The main character, Aragorn, he's a lot like that too.
He wrote that when he was only 21? Well, he published it when he was only 21?
I did know that. It's pretty impressive.
Very impressive. I mean, it is an old story, and it has been told 1,000 times, but it's been told 1,000 times in 1,000 different ways because it is such a
great theme.
It's a great theme. It's a primal theme. It's something that people can relate to, no matter time, place, gender or background. Back when I was saying at the beginning, one person overcoming impossible odds. It's a theme that will always be there because it is something that we can all relate to. It's something that we can all aspire to.
Yeah, I get behind that. A little bit off topic. The movie came out probably about 10 years ago now. The Kingdom of Heaven, Ridley Scott, Orlando Bloom in that movie. I really like that movie. It is very philosophical. It's not an action-packed war movie, but it takes place during the Crusades. And there's a quote in that movie from Orlando Bloom where he says, "What man is a man that doesn't try and make his world better?" And I think it's kind of that desire, that urge that I think most of us have inside of us. That's why we relate to those stories and those characters. So, just throwing that out there. We talk about Star Wars and Batman on this channel, on this podcast a lot. We're going to continue to do so. We do want to talk about other things, so absolutely, if you're listening to this, leave comments, some suggestions of topics you'd like us to discuss down below. Love to read them, love to talk about them in a future episode, but these are my favorite characters, and they're characters that I'm pretty comfortable saying that Axe is a decent fan of as well.
Oh, yes.
So we're going to talk about it. And since we're talking about that, Batman the Animated Series. If you have never watched Batman the Animated Series, pause this video, go binge watch, I think it's like 5 or 6 seasons. Go binge watch it, and then come back so you can appreciate what we're talking about, because it is a phenomenal series for kids and adults alike.
I remember coming home from school, and that was the first thing we did. We would watch. The run was Batman the Animated Series, and then Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And if you don't have those two theme songs running through your head right now, you are probably too young to be listening to this channel. You need an adult.
Probably, yeah. The thing that I love about Batman the Animated Series, number one, the animation style is really unique. They did it in the same style as those old 1940s Superman animated shorts that they used to show like before like the main movie.
Mm-hmm.
But they did it in a unique way. I don't know if anybody out there listening knows this, but they actually drew everything on black paper to give it that dark, like subdued kind of look, which is pretty awesome, I think.
Yeah, it takes an inventive mind a lot of times to come up with things, a very creative mind.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can't help but appreciate it.
Yeah, not just that. It's great to me. The reason we're talking about this, I've gone back and I've recently started watching Batman the Animated Series again. If you have Amazon Prime, it's on there. Go watch it. If they might not have the whole series on there, but I know they've got at least 4 or 5 seasons on there. Which that actually might be the entire series. I'm not sure. It's been a while since I've watched it. But I love when I can go back to something from my childhood and it's still good. There's one of the reasons why I'm such a huge Batman and Star Wars fan is I go back to those movies every so often, and they're still good. The stories are still the stories that I want to hear. The visuals are still visuals that I want to see. It's awesome.
The thing I've really liked about Batman the Animated Series is as you watch it, you realize that there are, proper adult themes. They're very subtle themes. There's if we were to grade themes and as far as literature and everything, on the same sort of scale as you would see in a liquor store, you got your bottom shelf, your raw whiskeys, your Canadian Hunter and stuff like that, and then you come up, you got your mid-grade, your standards, your Jack, your Jamesons, your Jim Beam, and then you got your really high-end stuff, your Woodford, your Blantons, your Bookers, stuff like that. Batman the Animated Series actually does run the gambit as far as themes. They got the low shelf themes, the bottom shelf themes for the kids, stuff that's easy to follow, easy to grasp. But there's also middle of the road themes such as, what does good and evil mean, and what are the conflicts between those two forces, and the conflicts and complements of those two forces, as well as the very highbrow themes. I mean, they confront topics such as they confront religion, they confront ideologies. It's really a lot more expansive and a lot more involved than a lot of series in that time, and it was very, very refreshing when I went back and watched it about 6 months ago when you provided it to me to watch.
Yeah.
It was very refreshing to have that little piece of my childhood that I could still get this sort of, this sort of literature, this sort of artistic rush I get from other things that are very high quality art, and it's still got that little kid, yay Batman punch that guy in the face feel to it also. Yeah. So it really does run the gambit, and I enjoy it.
The thing that I really love about Batman the Animated Series is the storytelling. Even like the lower end stuff, which the later episodes in the series, they kind of went a little bit more kid friendly. They're trying to appeal to a broader audience, but even still, the storytelling in those later episodes is superb. It's amazing storytelling. The other thing that I really love about it is they really explore Batman as a detective more so than a brute force Phantom in the night. They do have that, but they primarily focus on him as a man trying to do good and him as a detective, how brilliant he really is. Which some of the movies portray that better than others, but as far as the movies go, I've got a lot of faith in Ben Affleck as Batman. I've said it before, I'll say it again, that I think he's the best Batman we've had on film to date. Ben Affleck, I know you're probably not listening, but if somehow this gets to you, watch Batman the Animated Series. Let's try and get some of Batman's detective skills in there.
You know what? Watch it twice.
Yeah, you can do that because it's that good. And if you have never watched Batman the Animated Series, or it's been a while since you've watched it, go watch it. It's phenomenal. It's still good after all these years. Get a little bit more serious. Let's talk news a little bit.
There is some news. We received word that the ATF had passed new regulations. By the way, this is gun news. This is gun-related news, firearms. Both myself and Daniken are very, very dedicated enthusiasts. Would that be a good word?
Yeah, I would say I look at shooting both as a sport and a means of home defense, self-defense. I have hunted. I haven't hunted any time recently, but it is something that I enjoy doing. But I would say that I'm active in the shooting sports and that type of thing. Right. I am an enthusiast, sir.
Yes, as am I. Shooting is a regular part, and handling firearms is a regular part of my day-to-day. So I'm very enthusiastic about it. So when the news came out about new ATF regulations for wetted nitrocellulose being classified as a high explosive, therefore it would affect the regulation, it would fall under the high explosive regulations of the ATF as opposed to the gunpowder regulations, because wetted nitrocellulose is a precursor to smokeless gunpowder, which is used in all just about all modern cartridges. So when we got this news, it was disheartening. It was meaning that ammo prices were going to go through the roof, ammo was going to become more scarce. The industry had no time to prepare for this regulation. It was a bombshell, just absolutely dropped. There was no legislation, no news about it. It never came across, so I was wondering why that was. And I did some digging, because that's what I do. When I don't know something, I like to find out. And please, if I'm wrong, please tell me in the comments. I went to the source, and found out it all began with the ATF's biannual newsletter to the explosives industry. Came out in June this year, and in it was this little blurb, this paragraph and a half, about how nitrocellulose itself is a high explosive, and it is, and classified as such. So with that in mind, they wanted the leaders in the industry to understand, and those involved in the industry to understand, that it is a high explosive and to treat it as such. Not that new regulations were governing it, it was simply just the reminder, hey, wetted nitrocellulose is a high explosive. It's nitrocellulose wetted down with water or alcohol so that it's more stable in transport, and therefore it can get around the high explosives transport regulations, and which makes it easier for ammunition manufacturers to pump out more ammunition, as well as smokeless gunpowder manufacturers for those that do the home reloading.
Which is good news.
Yes.
But
the NRA decided to blow it out of proportion and claim that they had dropped a new regulation. Well, with all the hullabaloo surrounding it, on August 31st, the ATF issued an addendum to the newsletter stating, no, there is no new regulation. It was a blurb about awareness of nitrocellulose, that it is a high explosive and should be treated as such by those handling it for safety reasons. And then the NRA turned around and said, haha, this addendum is a great victory for us. No, it's not. There was no battle, therefore there can be no victory. We were a little political here. We like the NRA for what they do, but for the same reasons we don't like the NRA, because they take a very propagandized role, a very lobbyist role in gun rights and everything, when they should take more of an activist role.
Right.
I have no problems with anybody. If you're a member of the NRA or any shooting clubs or anything like that, it's fine. That's wonderful. I fully, wholeheartedly support the Second Amendment. I just wish that the NRA supported the Second Amendment for gun owners' rights and not for lobbyist rights.
Yeah.
But that's, again, this is an opinion-based show, and that is my opinion as Axon Cleaver, the Urban Viking.
Right. My little thing to add to that is basically, I'd say, as a political standpoint, I don't want to say that I have one. I'm not apathetic to the political situation at all. I don't prescribe left or right. I would say I'm borderline libertarian, not quite, because I feel that if you dedicate yourself to something, then you put yourself in a...
You pigeonhole yourself.
You pigeonhole yourself, yeah, because if for some reason that group doesn't do something that you don't like and you disagree with it, you are now the black sheep of that group. Yeah.
Again, we advocate think for yourself. I will put a link in the description below to the newsletter and the addendum to the newsletter, so you can read it for yourself, interpret it as you will.
My thing is, if you want to be part of a political group that say, police are being militarized and they're not doing what they were designed to do, you can do that, but you need to understand and accept that there are possible consequences that come with that. The other side of that, I support the military and the law enforcement wholeheartedly, and they can do whatever they want. There's possible consequences for that as well. So my thing is, I personally feel that if you're not hurting anybody else or anybody else's property, I don't take issue with what you're doing. However, if you are breaking the law, I'm not going to support you, and you need to accept the consequences for that happening. And all that said, going to the NRA, I like what the NRA does I don't like what the NRA is, which in my opinion they're a lobbyist group, and that is my opinion. I'm not saying that they are a lobbyist group, but that's what I view them as. I don't know if that is a good thing or not, but so far they've done a lot to protect the Second Amendment, so I appreciate what they do, even if I don't agree with the way they go about it.
All right. Well, we're not really moving to a more happy topic right now. As you all know, earlier in the week we lost a favored son of the world, not of America, not of any particular country, not of any particular industry, a favored son of the world.
Mr. Gene Wilder. And I'm not one to typically get overly emotional when a celebrity, because he was a celebrity, when a celebrity passes. But just to tell you, when Robin Williams died, I was sad about it. I grew up watching a lot of Robin Williams movies. I grew up watching some of his comedy, and I liked Robin Williams and who he was, and I was, sad to hear that he passed. I genuinely got a little bit choked up when I heard about Gene Wilder, though.
That explains why I didn't. You had the feeling that day.
I did. I had to use it. I'm sorry I didn't call and ask for permission or ask if you wanted to use it, but I was really close with my dad, and my dad was a big Gene Wilder fan. If it hadn't have been for Mr. Gene Wilder, I might not be here, because my mom and dad's first date was Blazing Saddles.
That is awesome.
Isn't it? So thank you, Mr. Wilder. But Blazing Saddles, I can't tell you how many times I sat down with my dad and watched that movie and busted a stitch laughing so hard. Young Frankenstein, and even more serious roles. There's a movie, it's not super well known. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It is more of a children's movie, but I guarantee you as an adult you will appreciate it. And if you have kids, or you are a kid yourself listening to this podcast, what is wrong with you? You need an adult. Nonetheless, go and see a movie. I want to say it's like late 70s, like 77, 78. It's called The Little Prince. Fantastic movie. One of my favorite quotes of all time comes from that movie, and it's given by Mr. Gene Wilder, where he says, "It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye." Great quote. Makes a lot of sense if you actually sit and think about it. That's all we really wanted to say. We just want to say that, we really appreciated Mr. Wilder and what he gave us. You'll be missed, sir. All right. As I said, it is cloudy and rainy where we are. And when it's cloudy and raining outside, and you have to go outside for work or going to the grocery store for your wife or whatever else, sometimes something happens in the rain, and it's a horrible thing. We both hate it.
It is the bane of everyone's existence. It is a national tragedy. It is a worldwide epidemic. We need funding. We need a full activist group for this horrible tragedy. Maybe even a Sarah McLachlan commercial. Wet socks.
Goddamn wet socks.
I hate wet socks.
Who doesn't hate wet socks?
Nothing will make you more miserable than wet socks, especially if you're not home yet and they're still wet and you have to drive home. It's cold. It's cold. You got to turn the heater on, but no. Now your socks are hot and wet and steamy and itchy. I hate it.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about it. It's one of those things that you're just like, either you're driving home barefoot or you're just going to have wet socks for however long it takes you to get home. And
I hate it.
If you'll excuse the turn of phrase, it's fucking horrendous. It's awful. And it's one thing if you're going to the grocery store. My wife used to always ask me this, like if I was going to the grocery store or something and it was raining outside. Well, why are you wearing flip-flops? I don't care if my feet get wet. I don't want to wear wet socks.
Because then your feet are wet and they can't dry out.
And there's not a damn thing I can do about it.
Oh.
It's terrible.
On a happy note, you got a delivery.
I did get a delivery. I finally did. And I'm going to talk more about this in the next episode. But my lightsaber that I ordered from Saber Forge finally came in. I've got a lot of good stuff to say about it. I've got a little bit of criticism for it, but I'll talk more about that in the next episode. But I am elated. I am elated with it.
Wanted to end on a happy note there. We had political, we had sad, we had horrifying. We needed something happy to end on, but we are out of time for today.
Yeah. As we said, leave some comments down below. Different things you might want us to discuss. We will absolutely at least consider talking about it in a future episode. Like, comment, and subscribe, as you hear all the time.
And, everybody, just try to be good. If you can't be good, be safe. And if you can't be safe, don't get caught.
And keep your socks clean and dry.
Keep your socks dry.